Okay, so in this video, I'm going to do an example of how to use the bus stop method to do division. So imagine we want to do 144 divided by 6. What we do is we draw what's called a bus stop, and then we write the numbers inside. So ordinarily, you would draw a bus stop like this, and then you'd write the 144 on the inside, and then you'd write the 6 on the outside. But in order to help the first time, I'm going to use this grid here that I've prepared. I'm just going to change the color of my pen so we can see. So I'm going to write the 144 on the inside in here. And then I'm going to write the 6 on the outside out here. Now, what we do is we start off by seeing how many times this number 6 will go first of all into the first number 1. Now, 6 will go into 1 0 times because 6 is bigger than 1. So, because it went in 0 times, I would need to write 0 above here. Now, 0 times 6 is 0, so I would still have my 1 left over because I've said it went in 0 times. 0 times 6 would be 0. To get to the 1 which I had, I would have a remainder of 1. So I need to write my remainder in this little box here. What I do now is I'd look at this number, 14. I'd see how many times 6 goes into 14. So what I would need would be a 6 times table maybe. So I could start with 0 times 6, which would be 0. 1 times 6 would be 1. No, 1 times 6 would be 6. 2 times 6 would be 12. 3 times 6 would be 18. If you don't know how I got these numbers, I just start and each time I add 6. So 1 times 6 is obviously 6. To get 12, I would just use 6 and I would add 6 on to get 12. Then I would add 6 on again to get 18. If I wanted 4 times 6, I would add on again to get 24. But that's going to be enough because we're doing how many times does 6 go into 14? So 14 is more than 12, but it's less than 18. So we go in 2 times. So I would need to write 2 in the box up here. Then, because 2 times 6 would be 12, to get to 14, there would be 2 left over. So like when I did here, 0 times 6 would be 0. To get to 1 would be 1 left over, which is why I've written here 1. 2 times 6 would be 12. From 12 to 14 would be 2, so I'd have 2 remainder, and I'd write 2 in this little box here. Now I need to do how many times does 6 go into 24? My 6 times table isn't long enough, so I'm going to have to extend it a bit more. So 4 times 6 would be, and I would need to add 6 onto this 18. So 18 plus 6 would take me to 24. So I could see that 6 goes into 24 4 times. Therefore, I would write 4 up here. Now this is my answer here. I don't need the 0 at the front, but the answer would be 24. So you would write this up here. If you were doing it just by hand, you could write it like here. I just use these spaces to help you know where you need to put everything. So here I would have written a small 1 here and a small 2 here if you're writing it by hand. So I'll do it by hand a bit later on, and then you write the answer above the top here. And therefore that would mean that 144 divided by 6 would equal 24. Okay, so after that I'm going to do another example. So again I'll use the 6 times table because we've already got that here. So let's say I want to do 342 divided by 6. Okay, again I'm going to use the grid to help me. So I would need to write 6 here, and then here I'm going to write 342 because that's the number which I'm dividing by 6. So I'm going to start off by doing how many 6's go into 3. 0, 6 would be too big, so it's going to be 0 times again. Oops, that should be black. 0 times there. Then 0 times 6 is 0. And I've got 3 left over to get to my 3, so my remainder needs to be 3 here. Now, 6 is into 34. My 6 times table needs to go a bit further. So 5 times 6, add 6 on to 24 would give me 30. Maybe go a bit further because we don't know yet. So 6 times 6, add 6 on again, would be 36. So now I can see that 34 30 would fit in okay. 36 is too big. So 6 is too big because 36 is bigger than 34. But 5 would be okay because 5 goes in 30 times to make 30. So I'd write here 5. Then from 30 to 34, I would need an extra 4. So my remainder is 4, which I need to write in here. Then I need to do 6's into 42. So I'm going to need to extend my 6 times table a bit further. So 7 times 6 would be 42. And I can therefore see that 6 is going to 42 7 times. So I'd write 7 up here. Okay, so that would mean that the answer of 342 divided by 6 would be 57. Okay, so we're going to do one more example. This time I'm just going to write it out by hand, completely, and not use the grid, just so you can see how that's going to work. So I need to do 665 divided by 7. So I would need to draw my bus stop. I put inside the number which I'm dividing by, 665, and I put outside the 7. Okay, now we might need a 7 times table, so I'm just going to write out a few of those. So 2 times 7 would be 14. 3 times 7 would be 21. 4 times 7 would be 28. 5 times 7 would be 35. You can see that it would be very helpful if you know your times tables. To help you with this would be 42. 7 times 7 would be 49. 8 times 7 would be 56. 9 times 7 would be 63. Okay, so I'm going to start off by doing how many 7s go into 6, which is 0. 0 times 7 is 0, and I'd have 6 left over, so I'd need to write a little 6 here. Then I'd do how many 7s go into 66. If I go down my list, I can see that 9 times 7 is 63. If I went one more, 10 times 7 would be 70. So 66, 9 would fit in. So I'd write 9 above the 66, and I would have 3 left over, because 9 times 7 is 63. To get to 66, there would be 3 more. So I'd need to write a little 3 here. Then I do how many times does 7 go into 35? And I can see that 35 is in my list here. 5 times 7 is 35, so I would write 5 up here, which means that my answer, 665 divided by 7, is equal to 95. Okay, let's just do one more. I'm just going to do one with a slightly bigger number this time. So let's say we want to do 8,778. Make my division a bit bigger, divided by 7. So we're just going to use the exact same technique with just the numbers a bit bigger. So we still draw a bus stop. We still put the 7 on the outside. We still put 8,778 on the inside. Maybe use our 7 times table for reference here. So we start off by saying how many times does 7 go into 8? Now 7 will go into 8 one time. 1 times 7 is 7, and there will be a remainder of 1. So I'd write a little 1 here. I can then see 7's into 17 would go 2 7s are 14, 3 7s are 21, so it's going to be 2. And from 14 to 17 there's a remainder of 3, so I put a little 3 here. Then I do 7's into 37. Down my list, 35 is 5 times 7. 42 is too big, so I put 5 up here. And I'd have a remainder of 2. And then the last one, 7's into 28, would go 4 times. So just because it's a bigger number, all that happens is you just end up with more numbers in your bus stop, and it takes a bit longer to do it. I will get my answer here of 1,254. So that's how that would work. All right, so what we'll do next time, all of these are divided in exactly, and we've all done them only with numbers which are, I've only done it with 6 and 7. This method would work fine with numbers up to 9, If you need to divide by 10, that's reasonably straightforward. Numbers which are bigger than 10, we can use this technique, or we can use slightly different techniques, which I'm going to show you later on. All right, so there's more videos to come if you're ready for more material, and I can show you how to divide by bigger numbers, how to divide by decimals, and what to do when it doesn't divide in exactly.